Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, what exactly happened to the internet last Friday, and is it something that could happen again? And we'll hear reaction to a recent documentary we aired on Saudi Arabian-owned farms in La Paz County. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Governor Doug Ducey today signed an executive order that limits the first prescription of opioid drugs to a 7-day supply for adults. The order also allows for no more than a 7-day total supply for children, unless those children have cancer or other chronic diseases or serious injuries. The order only affects those with state-provided insurance, including the State Employee Insurance Plan and Medicaid. Massive attack on the internet last Friday managed to shut down major websites such as Netflix, Twitter, CNN, and others. The attack took place by overloading servers by way of gadgets or devices that are connected to the internet. Here to talk about how this could happen and how to keep it from happening again is Mark Pribish from Merchants Information Solutions, a Phoenix company that provides corporate identity theft management and data breach solutions. And also joining us is Evelyn Pigeon, ASU's Information Security Program Director. Good to have you both here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Ted.
So, Mark, what exactly happened Friday? How did this go about?
Well, essentially you have a company that supports the internet, and they're a domain system name company. So when you and I go to the internet and we Google USA Today, it takes us to usatoday.com. But there's an IP address or an internet protocol address that can be a 10-digit number, and that 10-digit number is what DSN created, DNS created. They were overwhelmed with botnets, and botnets were pretending to be activity to their servers that was not good information, and that those overwhelmed servers created an overload where they had to shut down.
Interesting. So basically personal devices kind of turned and attacked, huh?
Yes, it's exactly what happened. Personal devices that had been compromised by these hackers that managed to gain control of them and use the bots to allow them to send these tens of thousands of attacks against the domain name server, creating a traffic jam, essentially, so that people like you and I couldn't get to what we needed to.
So when we read and hear about distributed denial of service attacks, that means, what does that mean?
That means exactly what Mark was talking about. It's overwhelming a system or a service with so much information, usually bad data, just junk, that it can't handle all of the requests that are coming in.
So how did they manage to do this? I understand, I read now that common passwords were used, and then did that have something to do with it?
Let's go to the Internet of Things. Okay, first of all, the Internet of Things so far appears to be a pretty good thing. We get excited about the smart refrigerator and the smart washer and dryer and the smart printer that communicates to the retail store that I need new ink cartridges, and even the smart cars. And so there's convenience and efficiency and safety and security. But with this safety and security, we have manufacturers of smart devices who are so excited to create new product that their concern for security and safety is minimal. And so typically when we get a new iPhone or a new laptop or a new smart device, we have a security code. And the security code is a basic template security code. It could be as simple as security or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as individual consumers, we need to change those security codes. And what the botnets did is they took advantage, what the bad guys did is they took advantage of the majority of those security codes of those internet devices not being changed.
So, I mean, we're constantly being lectured. Change your password, use all sorts of symbols, so much so that you can't remember it, and if you write them on an index card, you can't find the card, you're really out of luck. But are you saying that when these devices are made, they have their own, so no matter what I do, you can break into it if you can break into the phone security code?
You can break into it if you haven't changed what the default password was that the manufacturer created. So for convenience, they have a default password that they put on every device that they manufacture. If you don't go in and change that default password to something of your own choosing, those default passwords are readily available. So the bad guys can look those up, and they have a list of default passwords for devices, and they just go searching. They look for every device out there, and as soon as they get one that they are able to access, they add that to their list.
Are you telling me that there are so many people out there who won't change the password from, they open their iPhone box and it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they go, that's good, that's me.
I think most people know on their phones to change their password, but are you going to think of doing that for your refrigerator? You don't think your refrigerator is a computer, but there's now a computer in a smart refrigerator so that it can tell you how many eggs you still need to order, or whatever when you run low.
Does the refrigerator require a password, though? Does it tell you, good idea to change your password?
If it has a computer in it, it's going to have a password.
Yeah.
And it's something that you can look up, talk to your manufacturer, look up in your instructions. Should have that information in there for you.
You both have mentioned that these are bad guys who are doing. Who are the bad guys?
It depends. It could be nation states. It could be teenage hackers. It could be just criminals who are criminal rings from around the world who are looking to make a dollar. But what's really interesting about this story is there's this overexcitement about how bad Friday was. It could actually be a very good thing to heighten our awareness about the future security. And so, for example, if I'm an individual consumer, I'm going to want to read the product guide that comes with my smart fan and smart refrigerator and smart printer, and I'm going to want to change that default password. So that's a good thing for the consumer. It's going to heighten awareness. But it's also, so you have a consumer risk management perspective here, but there's a enterprise or data breach risk management perspective for organizations and organizations themselves. It's going to heighten the awareness for them. And Evelyn's a specialist, expert in information security and governance. And that's actually a really big trend these days for businesses and enterprises.
Well, indeed, and a lot of folks are worried about the election coming up, and they're worried that that could somehow be compromised. Could it be compromised?
I think that the thing that we see trending is influence of the election, compromising trends on Facebook or on other social media that makes it look like there's a lot more likes to a certain candidate or a certain opinion and than there actually are.
So this basically does show the vulnerabilities of living in a connected world, does it not?
It does.
So what lessons do we learn?
We learn, well, we talked about the password lessons. We talk about, do you really need an internet-connected device? At ASU, we take a hard look at all of the things that we have connected and that are convenient for our students, our faculty, our staff. And we say, does that device really need to be connected to the internet or not? Does it really need to be something that anybody on the internet can find? Or can we just make it so that it's only found by people at ASU? Those are things that you can do to protect yourself.
But living in a world where everything's now on the cloud, I mean, it's first of all, it's on the net, now it's in the cloud. I mean, how far can you go? How much can this be protected? Is this, in other words, is this inevitable, this kind of attack?
It is inevitable, but while it appears as though the bad guys are always 6 months ahead, Homeland Security, that's the state organization of the federal government that is responsible for protecting the internet. And when people ask me about what can I do or what should I do to get more educated, Evelyn and I were talking about the Black Hat Conference. So in Las Vegas, it was the 18th or 19th Black Hat Conference this year. And I always tell consumers who are interested in learning more about security and vulnerability, Google Black Hat 2013, 14, 15, 16. And there are demonstrations on stage by some of the brightest people in the world, good hackers, white hat hackers, who are actually demonstrating how I can start a car, steer a car, brake a car from outside the hotel of a car that's on the stage.
I'm sorry, but that just can't happen. I mean, these smart cars are happening. I mean, they're happening, but they've got to be. I mean, they've got to be secure. You can't have cars going and doing their own thing out there.
And with any computer, that's the question. You've got to make sure that it's secure. So I know that there's some security consciousness raising going on, and it's up to the consumer to make themselves aware of what are the possibilities, what are the risks, what are the things that they need to do to protect themselves. And there's lots of information out there. Mark mentioned Homeland Security. They have lots of information online that you can look and research.
But with smart cars, I could do all the right things in the world, but if another person uses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or something, and that car goes barreling down the highway at the wrong, could that happen?
I will stress that these are really, really, really bright people who are doing this on a one-off basis. There's no mass taking over of cars on highways, but the fact that can be done on a one-off basis shows for the security conscious manufacturers, we have to work on this.
Very quickly, do you think this was some kind of test run for another event?
It can be a test run, it might be a test run, but I don't think we've seen anything yet. I think, for example, the election, you asked about the election. Could this impact the election? Could it be a test run for the election? Possibly. But I think the bigger issue going forward in the future, when you look at major cities in the United States, if someone hacks into the water supply, the utilities, if we lose electricity for a week, or if we lose access to water for a week, or if someone hacks into a nuclear power plant, that's going to be the true test of responding to a hacking event.
And real quickly, should we expect a copycat here sometime in the near future?
I think we always expect that someone else is going to try it if it's been done. So we do our best to take a look at the event, lessons learned, how can we go back and evaluate our current situation and bolster ourselves against future attacks.
All right, very good. Good to have you both here. Good information. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Get the inside scoop on what's happening at Arizona PBS. Become an insider. You'll receive weekly updates on the most anticipated upcoming programs and events. Get the insider delivered to your email inbox. Visit azpbs.org to sign up today.
Tonight's edition of Arizona Sustainability revisits the topic of groundwater supply in La Paz County. Residents there are concerned that some agriculture businesses that provide jobs may also be depleting the groundwater supply. The story was highlighted in a documentary produced by a group of students at ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism. Here's a clip from that documentary.
I've lived in La Paz County for pretty much 10 years, but my family has lived here since the early 60s. There was a lot of agriculture activity back then. That's where a lot of families did have jobs back then. My grandparents moved here to help with cotton farms, and now other large farming companies, corporate farming, have been the major change. You know, it's changed the tapestry around here.
The largest dairy company in the Middle East is based in Saudi Arabia. It's El Morai, and that's the company that we found in the Arizona desert. In In a desert, you have sunshine and warm temperatures nearly all year long, meaning that you can be growing hay, compressing it, shipping it back to Saudi Arabia nearly 12 months of the year. The downside of that is it means that you're pumping water up from the aquifer for nearly 12 months of the year.
Most of La Paz County is not in a regulated area. What does that mean? It means that anybody can come in, drill a well of any size, and pump to any depth and pump as much as they want. What La Paz County is worried about is that their groundwater supplies will be mined into extinction.
We're really concerned about the water usage in the area. Wells are going dry all over the valley, and yet new ones are being put in. They've put alfalfa farms near us. It's just kind of scary.
There's some sort of blame assigned to the local agricultural and farming community. And so, you know, those are fears, but we're not sure that those are well-grounded fears. But obviously there is an issue that people are dealing with, local residents who are seeing issues with the wells that they personally use. But whether or not it's up to agriculture or farming as being the culprit, I don't think that's the case.
It's almost impossible to manage groundwater without some sort of regulation. And without that, I don't see a lot of hope for those areas, because there's very little a local entity can do to stop somebody from pumping groundwater when state law permits it.
There is a balance that needs to be struck. I think everyone agrees on that. I think the residents of La Paz agree that farming brings jobs, brings money into the county. It's a way of life for a lot of the people there. The question is, how long do they want the water to last?
One of the companies discussed in the documentary is a Saudi Arabian-owned farming operation called Fundamante Farms. Here to talk about that particular business and the general impact that foreign-owned agricultural businesses have in Arizona are Jordan Rose, an attorney from the Rose Law Group, and Mark Killian, director of the Arizona Department of Agriculture. Good to see you both again. Thanks for joining us. Thank you. Why did you feel like a response to this documentary was warranted?
Well, you know, Ted, when we saw the documentary, the menacing music, all of these kinds of things, we thought, my goodness, that's strange. You could essentially say that any foreign direct investment in Arizona is stealing our water. Intel, are they stealing our water to send ships back to various places in the world? And agriculture as an industry is all about producing crops in one area of the world and sending them somewhere else. Fundamante bought this farm about 2 years ago and has spent $118 million in Arizona so far. They're the 5th largest employer in La Paz County now, after Walmart, the casino, the Colorado River Indian Community, and the hospital. They're employing most all Arizonans and some Californians. And they not only produce 50,000 tons of alfalfa on their farm here to export, but they also buy 150,000 tons from 20 neighboring farms. So they're a great economic driver in La Paz County.
And yet, in the documentary, we hear concern over groundwater supplies. Are those concerns valid?
Well, they always have been. I mean, Arizona has been the leader in coming up with groundwater management. From the very time that the farmers, who were the ones that were involved in bringing the CAP into Arizona, Central Arizona, to the Groundwater Management Act of 1980, the Groundwater Quality Act of 1984, the Groundwater Banking Act of 1996, Arizona's always been on the forefront of managing its water supply. The problem I have with the documentary is it makes it sound like if we are shipping agricultural products out of Arizona, that's something that's bad. And what people need to understand is that Arizona agriculture, it's a $17 billion industry. It employs 88,000 people. We have always shipped our products all over the world, our citrus, our cotton, our alfalfa. The durum wheat that we grow goes to Italy. Our milk, our beef supplies. And so the angle that I think that the people took in this documentary was like they were trying to create something evil in Arizona shipping its products outside of the state.
Does that equation, though, change as groundwater becomes less abundant, especially in an area, according to the documentary, where there is no regulation on groundwater?
You know, I think the great thing that we have in Arizona is we have some of the best water experts there is. And the governor has appointed a group that's looking at this. And they're going to come up with some solutions so that we can solve this problem. What people need to understand is agriculture is not in the business of drying up aquifers. They depend on that water. And so with the new technologies that have been developed at the universities, the new technologies that industry has developed, so we use less water in our crops, the genetically modified crops we have that use less water, the technologies in our tractors, the GPS, the laser leveling of our fields, all of that contributes to using a heck of a lot less water than we used to back in the 60s and the 50s.
The one couple we saw sitting on the bench, I believe that they had been there for a while, and they had drilled a well of a certain depth. It ain't working anymore because the groundwater supply has gone down lower, and so they're going to have to spend a lot of money to dig deeper for water, and they don't necessarily think that's fair. Do they have a point?
Well, I think this particular company purchased an existing alfalfa farm a couple years ago. They were already farming alfalfa, and they put a lot of money into purchasing and revamping the irrigation technology on this farm. And so they've replaced 85% of the system that was there before with the most highly technologically advanced conservation methods known and possible for farming. And that's because Fundamante wants to be there forever, right? So they have farms all around the globe, Argentina, the Ukraine, because they have a large dairy that those cows, they've got to eat 3 times a day, and they need a consistent supply regardless of climatic changes in other parts of the world or political unrest or whatever. And so what they have done is taken a farm that was existing and they've deployed very conservation-oriented irrigation techniques. They're working, as the director said, now with the governor's office and the Department of Water Resources to come up. The greatest minds in the country are here in Arizona and have been focused on our water issues. So they're participating in those conversations and hope to make it much better.
So is this just business being business? The big guy comes over and can pump more water, does pump more water, and if the table lowers, the little guy who's been there for a while, for better or worse in their case, their pumps don't work anymore, their wells don't work anymore. Is this just business?
No, I think it's to no one's advantage if someone's pump doesn't work, and we haven't heard that kind of a discussion there. We are trying to, this particular farming operation has developed because they're used to farming in Saudi Arabia in quite arid conditions. And so they've really developed some techniques that they're trying to use to train local farmers and these 20 other farms that they're also purchasing their product from. And so we're hopeful that we'll have a very positive impact, and I think they've already had a positive impact just in revamping the farms that they particularly control.
I know some of the folks in the documentary, some of the folks that live out there were concerned because they say that another country shouldn't be using our resources when they have depleted theirs.
Well, you know, that's a specious argument, and I'll give you a good example. Mexico ships into Arizona 5.4 billion pounds of fruits and vegetables. So maybe we should say that folks in Mexico shouldn't be sharing their water with us. The other day I went into Safeway to buy some fruits and vegetables, and I noticed these beautiful gold bell peppers. And when I looked at the label, it said Holland on it. So I guess you should say that the people in Holland shouldn't be sharing their water with the people in Arizona. Agriculture across the world is facing this issue, and that's water conservation. And that's why there's so much work going on at the universities and the U.S. Department of Agriculture on reducing the amount of water that it takes to irrigate our crops. This is not only going on in La Paz County, it's happening in southeast Arizona, it's happening in New Mexico, the Ogallala Aquifer, all of Nebraska, central Kansas, Colorado, Texas are dealing with these issues. And the brightest minds in agriculture and science are coming together to figure out how we can meet the needs, because the most important issue that we haven't talked about here tonight is there's going to be 10 billion people in this world by 2050. The American farmer has to double their output in that time with the same amount of land and less water. And Arizona plays a key role in helping to feed the world. And so when we get into this issue, what we have to do is figure out how we produce crops better, with less water, but more crops, healthier crops, so we can feed the world.
All right. We have to stop it right there. It's good to have you both here. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Tuesday on Arizona Horizon, did newspapers make a mistake in relying too much on the internet to deliver news content? And we'll learn about groundbreaking research to map the human immune system. That's tomorrow, 5:30 and 10, right here on Arizona Horizon. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.